I've been talking the last couple of weeks on these little videos about prayer in different kinds of ways, and I thought, it being Lent, I would like to continue that sort of theme as we walk through the rest of Lent. Now, prayer is, of course, central to the Christian life, and there are different kinds of prayer that we tend to do. There is sort of the classic intercessory prayer that we do where we're praying for the needs of others, for people who we know that are sick, or in any kind of particular need. Sometimes even prayers for the Lord to bless people we know and love, which I was taught to do as a child at my bedtime. There's also petitionary prayer, where we are asking the Lord not so much for somebody else, but for ourselves. I have this dear friend who says often her most common petitionary prayer is simply help. Help is, of course, that help to God is, of course, a petitionary prayer to Him, to needing help ourselves. Confession is a kind of prayer, and we say our prayer of confession every week in church, and a morning prayer and evening prayer. Confession is a kind of prayer. Thanksgiving is also a kind of prayer that we're very familiar with, where we're giving thanks to God for the good things that He does. But there's a kind of prayer that I think is true prayer that we don't connect with very often, that I think is really sort of important. And which is a prayer that is less about thanking God for what He's done, but being in a state of adoration or worship of God for who He is and what He is like. Interestingly enough, I heard on the radio this week about a study that has told psychologists that awe is a pathway to physical and mental health. Indeed, being in a state of awe, being in worship of God, I am not surprised, is actually something that leads us to physical and mental health. And so awe or adoration is a kind of prayer that we might come to. Now, the truth is, awe is almost an experiential thing. It is not just something that we will ourselves into. We can't manufacture awe. Awe often comes upon us. I remember one time driving through the mountains north of Montreal, coming over the crest of a hill and seeing the light on the side of the mountain with the trees and just the angle and everything. And it was spectacularly beautiful, and I was overtaken by the beauty, but that led me to an awe of God, being in a place of awe and wonder at the beauty of what God had made. And that's sort of what awe is. That's sort of what adoration is being in this place where there aren't really words. I'm not saying anything. I am just in awe. I am in wonder of who He is. And so you might ask, how do I then sort of enter into awe? Well, again, we can't manufacture it, but if we think about our prayer time and having some time laid aside in our prayer, that's not about words, it's not about saying things, it's not about talking to God, it's not about interceding and getting through our checklist of people we want to pray for, although that's important. It is actually taking some time for silence and to consider and to think about perhaps the beauty of God or the wonder of God or the power of God or the majesty of God. In a place of silence, not in a place of words or not in a place of anything else, but just thinking upon it and contemplating and meditating upon the wonder of God. That disposes us, and I think, which is true of all kinds of prayer. Prayer basically in many ways just disposes us or creates space for us to allow God to meet us with awe or with thanksgiving or wonder or whatever it is. So as you pray during this Lent, invite some silence into your prayer. And in that silence, move to a place, to the best you can, of adoration, wonder and love and just delight in who God is. Not in what He's done, not in what He might do in the future, what we want Him to do in the future, but the fact that He is, and He is glorious. It's an important kind of prayer.